The Cherokees had lived in small villages in parts of what is now Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Alabama, and Georgia. By 1819, they had signed treaties ceding over 90% of their land to the United States. With the civilization policy, many Cherokees had switched from being hunters to farmers. Some even ran plantations and owned slaves. Their children learned Christian religion and English at mission-run schools. A Cherokee alphabet was created, and in the 1820s, the Cherokee Nation began publishing a bilingual newspaper. They established a government and constitution that was patterned after the United States.
The civilization policy was looked upon as a tool for survival. We began to see that that might be the only way for the Cherokee people to live in peace with the United States. Not so much that we wanted to become white people.
As the Cherokees became more and more prosperous along more or less classic white Southern lines, the nature of white government in America was changing. The federal government had to appeal to a much wider base of white American men than it had previously in the Revolutionary period. One of the main interests of this demographic of less well-off white American men was to get land so that they could become better-off white American men. The main result of this, which was from the white point of view an expansion of democracy and of democratic representation, of the inclusion of more and more people in American democracy. From the Indian point of view was the gradual empowerment of exactly the population which would like to take what they had.
Every year, more white settlers arrived in Georgia seeking to settle on what was still Indian land. The federal government had promised to remove all Indians from the state in 1802. But 25 years later, with the Cherokees appearing even more entrenched, Georgia's legislature took action, asserting, "The lands in question belong to Georgia. She must and she will have them." The state held a lottery giving whites title to Cherokee property.
Whites invaded their land, they killed people, they stole their property, they forced them out of their houses. Cherokees were really being pressed from all sides, it seemed.
The pressure on Cherokees and all Eastern Indians increased in 1828 when Andrew Jackson was elected president on a platform championing opportunity for the common man. Removing all Indians east of the Mississippi was central to his agenda.
When Jackson, who speaks out in a kind of a populist way, speaking for the little guy, speaking out against privilege, his little guy, his citizen, is increasingly a white male citizen. As America is becoming more democratic for white males, it is becoming increasingly more race-based.
It's believed that only white people can maintain the land, preserve it, protect their own independence, and then using that independence have some sort of fitness for self-government that enables them to be proper citizens.
Nationalism begins to be, in many respects, equated to race. People began to think that nations should be composed of people who had inherent qualities in common. They thought the same way. They believed the same things. They spoke the same language. They looked the same. And this is very contradictory to the Enlightenment notions of united humanity.
The conflict between Indian removal and America's founding ideals surfaced during bitter national debates. In a 3-day speech to his fellow congressmen, New Jersey Senator Frayling Heisen asked, "If we abandon these aboriginal proprietors of our soil, how shall we justify it to our country? How shall we justify this trespass to ourselves? But Michigan Territory Governor Lewis Cass provided a justification, one that used race to focus on the nature of Indians, rather than the morality of their removal.
They have resisted every effort to ameliorate their situation. There must then be an inherent difficulty arising from the institutions, character, and condition of the Indians themselves.
The Indian Removal Act passed in 1830. When some tribes, including the Cherokees, resisted removal, President Jackson's response reflected the government's shift in racial thinking about the Indians.
They have neither the intelligence, the industry, the moral habits, nor the desire of improvement which are essential to any change in their condition. Established in the midst of another and superior race, they must necessarily yield to the force of circumstances and ere long disappear.